Welcome back, you guys! I've been doing a lot of thinking about my future lately, and I think I have an idea of how it's all gonna end up. I have a monthly schedule written for next year. January 2023, buy a house. February 2023, dementia diagnosis. March 2023, dementia diagnosis. April 2023, dementia diagnosis. Now you might be asking, how do you know all this? How are you able to see this far in the future? It's really simple, 20 Benadryl. I think it's time for me to use my powers for good, solving world hunger, ending climate change, or I could use it on Nintendo. Yeah, that sounds appealing. I apologize to any war veterans whose PTSDs I may trigger by mentioning this, the console wars. Considered universally to be one of the most stupid, yet entertaining wars of all time. The console wars have shrunk from including hundreds of smaller consoles from smaller companies to being just the consoles made by the big three, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation. For those of you that don't know, either because you live under a rock or your family forbids conversation about it, the console wars comes down to this. In each generation of console lineups, which company can make the best console? This comes down to a number of factors. The games, the services included, the hardware, the software such as UI and other features, and so on. Right now, the race is on to achieve successful cloud gaming, allowing players to play console games without the need of a console on hand, or in some cases, at all. While Nintendo's still trying to figure out how to run a PlayStation 3 game, Xbox and PlayStation have been making great strides in the service. Xbox Game Pass is, in my reluctant opinion, an absolute snag for the amount of games you're getting and the amount of ways you can play the games. I'll be in my Fallout shelter if you need me. PlayStation currently has Remote Play, which allows you to stream games to your PlayStation 4, 5, or Windows PC with PlayStation Plus. It has a bit to go in terms of game library size and backlog support to reach where Xbox is at, but I'm certain that it will get there. Now let's take a look at the future. Let's see here. It appears that white people no longer exist. I'm going to go through each company individually here, starting off with Xbox. They're going to cheat. Here comes the first of so many controversial statements today. Xbox will end up like Sega and no longer produce consoles. Allow me to clarify that statement before I end up on one of the FBI's lists. I think that Xbox will move entirely to working on Game Pass and games for PC in the future. Xbox consoles, especially the Series S and X, just aren't doing as well with sales. I've seen the consoles on shelves while PlayStation 5 remain near impossible to find. I've seen wanted posters for those things. Game Pass, on the other hand, I've seen bought a lot more frequently. Now, will Game Pass have to raise in price to make up for the sales lost on consoles? Yes, but you have to also ask, is Microsoft really relying on Xbox? Hell, if for some reason both Xbox and Game Pass begin to dip in sales significantly, I wouldn't put it out of the question for them to outright leave the console race. Microsoft would literally just release another version of Windows and make double the money they currently earn off of Xbox. Sad but true reality. Remember, this is not me saying that Xbox will drop out of the console race, it's just me saying that out of the big three, they're the most likely to. Let's go look at the future for PlayStation. It's just Adam Sandler. Both Xbox and PlayStation will likely continue to buy out companies, with Xbox hitting the bigger developers while PlayStation will continue to get their hands on smaller, talented developers to develop first-party games for them. Of the big three, PlayStation seems to have the most solidified future ahead of them. They've been using the same model of developing home consoles with similar controllers, some emphasis of VR, and not much straying off of their formula. Xbox strayed off path with the Xbox Game Pass and Windows integration, and Nintendo is so far from a path that a path doesn't really even exist for them. This isn't really a good or bad thing. Their success as a console developer has been increasing with the release of newer consoles, and their emphasis on expanding accessibility through features and game library through acquisitions is great for us as gamers. We can expect PlayStation to continue its path with the PlayStation 6, 7, and so on. One thing that might be up for debate is whether or not PlayStation's success will continue. Their formula has been working well, but if some new innovation comes along that they have to adapt to in order to continue being successful, which may not work with their already established formula, They might have some problems. They've had issues with their back catalog already, so future problems aren't impossible. As I said before, there are good and bad things about PlayStation remaining on their formula, but I think that good old PlayStation here is going to be doing fine. Now let's look at Nintendo. Ooh. I'm going to bed. Nintendo is certainly headed somewhere. The thing is, it's becoming impossible to determine where. Their console lifespans have spread from as little as 2 years to as long as 8 years. We have no clue how long the Switch will last for or when we're getting a new console. Although my instincts tell me we're getting a new console or some kind of new Switch within the next year and a half. But when has Nintendo ever followed expectations? The Switch is a part handheld, part home console, so who knows which one they'll lean to in the future, if either of them. Will they finally listen to our requests about new software or hardware improvements? What will the new UI look like, since when has that ever been constant? The closest two Nintendo UIs have ever looked were the 3DS and Switch's UI. Will we even get a new console, or will it just be a repeat of the Switch? Nintendo's releasing definitive versions of games on the Switch, and it feels like with this all coming out, what's the need to make a new console for them? We know we want it, but what drive do they have? Moving from uncertainty to more uncertainty, if Nintendo ever drops out of the console race, it will definitely be because of poor sales. I'm not saying that because it will happen, I'm just saying if it does happen, it will definitely be due to sales. But honestly, I don't see that happening. They'll find a way to stay with the competition, whether or not their hardware or software matches the performance of other consoles. We all know pretty damn well about the rumors about a Switch Pro or a new console, and honestly, I don't see the next Nintendo console or even the next 3 Nintendo consoles being a graphic overhaul. As sad as it is, Nintendo just isn't the type of company to host AAA games consistently, because their games aren't usually amazing graphically, at least compared to some Xbox and PlayStation games. There are some pretty damn good looking Switch games with unique art styles and neat graphics like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, but that isn't something that happens consistently on the Switch. So does Nintendo have a place in the big 3 in the future? Yes, but do we have any clue what it will look like or what will be their specialization? Not a chance. Looks like the meta drill's starting to kick in. I think with all this information, we know really well what's gonna happen to the consoles, I bet I'm gonna have a console when I grow up. It's my turn on the Xbox.